You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hey girlfriend, welcome to today's episode. I'm pumped to be here with you as always. Super excited to share something that has really made a difference on my journey in the hopes that it can for yours as well. Whether you're looking to start a side hustle or a creative project or a business or just move towards your dream life, these are important lessons that I feel like I've learned that really unlocked a lot for me, and for whatever reason they were on my heart this week. So I'm hopeful that it's you who really benefits from hearing them or just feels so encouraged. Maybe you're the reason that it popped up today in my mind. So I'm just super excited to share them with you. I've been thinking about this concept of how there is a cost to doing things in business when you're starting a business or when you are purchasing something for your life. But one lesson that I really learned once I got into business is how there's also a cost to not doing something, right? It's almost like if you think about it outside of business with health, there's a cost to going to the gym, right? I mean, literally, financially, there's a cost to going to the gym, but there's also the energy you spend. It's not the thing you want to do at the end of the day. However, there's also a cost to not doing it, right? Like there's a cost to not taking care of your health, to not moving your body, to feeling more lethargic. And so maybe you spend the $30 or $99 a month on the gym membership, but what you get out of your health and your moods and your emotions and how good and strong you feel is so much more than that $99, right? And you not going is so much greater of a cost to your life, your body, and your health than those $99 or those hours that you spend at the gym, right? And so even with business, one thing I remember being so vigilant about, especially in the beginning, because often you don't have profit coming in then, so you're watching everything so closely. But I remember really very diligently looking at every single thing that I purchased, whether it was a course or a coach or a product. And all that stood out to me in the beginning was the dollar sign, right? Like the $99, the $2.99, the $9.97. What I did not realize until I got further into business was I'm also need to be watching the opportunity cost of not investing in this thing. So yes, I might save $99 figuring something out my own. But if I really think about the time that it takes me to use trial and error, to do things the long way, to have it maybe not work out, to do it alone, oftentimes it's worth so much more than that $99, especially if you start thinking of your time, like your hours assigned to a dollar amount. How much would it cost you to do something if it takes you 10 hours versus just paying for someone to do it and maybe it's $100, but like you have it instantly in your inbox, right? So start to think about things as you become a business owner, as you move towards this dream life of yours. What is the cost of doing this? But also, what is the cost of not doing this? And that can be financially, but it can also be in relationships, the stress that it adds or removes from them. It can be in your emotions, how good you feel or how negative you feel, how hard it is on you to not do something. You know, it can be in terms of your own level of confidence in yourself and figuring something out and having something work for you and bringing profits and fulfillment into your life, or the confidence or lack of it from struggling and from taking longer to figure it out and the toll that takes on the rest of your life. Even in terms of your own freedom, like that's a huge value of mine where it's like, does this give me more freedom in my life? Or does it give me less? Right? Like, and do I get it sooner or do I get it later? So that's a really big thing, I think, to just start observing, even if you're not ready to fully act on it yet, because I know it's scary to, invest in things, especially when you're just getting things going. But just start to consider for yourself, okay, here's the cost of doing this. What is the cost of not doing this, right? And I even think about it in terms of another lesson I learned, which is value given is value received. So for me, anything that I have invested in that even felt like a big expense to me, I got so much more value out of that. I believe there's an equal or greater exchange, right? Where whatever you put into something, you get equal back or more. And so for me, I started to know that even if something felt like a stretch for me financially to commit to, or emotionally, energetically, time-wise, because I was investing so much more mentally, I would show up differently. I would show up committed. I would get my return out of that. I would show up like a different person than if it was a free thing, than if it was a cheap thing, right? Or if it was a $10, $9.99 thing. And so sometimes I will hear new entrepreneurs say that, where they're like, well, I'm going to go with this route because it's way cheaper. And that's fine, but you may show up differently if it doesn't feel like as much of a lift to you. You may show up differently or get a different result out of it than if you actually made that commitment to yourself by investing in this thing, right? Then if you signal to yourself, I'm really going for this thing. And it's not about paying excess just for the sake of it, right? Like, you want to get a good value out of things, of course, but just remember that value given is value received. And so instead of always, looking for the cheapest thing, you want to see it in terms of the whole picture, right? Like opportunity cost. What's the cost of going with one thing versus another? So maybe there's a cheaper expert, but is there one who maybe is going to get you where you need to go faster? Is there one that you trust more, one you enjoy more? Maybe that's worth a little bit extra value, right? And maybe that's going to get you more out of it at a disproportionate level. Another important concept here is that there's a difference between investments and expenses. So I know this is a lot of different financial concepts, right? But these things help me so much in terms of really zeroing in on things that could serve my business and what was worth investing in and what wasn't. All right. So investment versus expense. An investment is something that makes you money, right? So you may have to put some money into that, just like the stock market or a home, right? But at the end of the day, you are going to get money out of that. So maybe you purchase a product or a course and you put a little money in, but are you going to get $100,000 out of that initial $1,000 you spent? Are you going to get, amazing amounts of value and camaraderie and support out of a coach, right? Versus that little monthly fee that you pay each month. So an investment is something that makes you money. An expense is something that just costs you money, right? That is the Starbucks latte. No offense to Starbucks. I love them too. But that's something that literally is just money that goes out of your hands into someone else and you never see a return on that. But there is a difference. So what I started to look at with my own finances is this an investment, something that I may put a little bit into but get a lot more out of in my life, in my finances, in my confidence, my freedom, my relationships, my abilities, my time frame, right? My ability to get somewhere faster? Or is this an expense where once it's gone and there's no value returned to me out of it? So that is a very big distinction. Again, I think if you start to think about these concepts, it's the first one of there's a cost of doing something, but what is the cost of not doing something? What's the opportunity cost? Second, that there is, such thing as value given is value received. So whatever you put out there, you get back either equal or greater. And then there's also that concept of, is this an investment that's going to make me money? Or is this an expense that's going to cost me money? And there is a major, major difference. So being aware of those can really help guide your financial decisions. And maybe you want to spend less on expenses, less on things that don't really do much for you, but you want to invest more into investments that are going to improve your future forever, right? A last little thing I'll leave you with is there's such thing as a disproportionate risk. Right? So when you think of investing things, and this goes for the stock market or anything else, but for business, right? Sometimes it's easy to illustrate in this way. Maybe you are investing $10 into something, But what you could get out of it is so much more than $10, right? Like if you get that return that you're hoping for, you could get out 1,000 or 100,000 or whatever, right? Where just like in business, maybe you invest $500 into something, but that thing could set you up the rest of your life to earn $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year. And over a lifetime, that becomes millions of dollars, all because of that $500 or $1,000 you invested on the front end, right? So I do try and think about that as well, where if I'm weighing, okay, do I do something? Does it make sense financially or emotionally, time-wise? Sometimes I'll think about that. I'm like, I could spend an hour doing this, but maybe me spending an hour doing this training, this masterclass, watching this YouTube video, learning from this expert, doing this call, going to this networking event, maybe that could lead to a new career for me. That could lead to an idea that completely changes my business. That could lead to a new friendship for the rest of my life. That hour spent at the gym or going on a walk could rejuvenate my body and give me health for the whole next, day or month or whatever, right? Like it's all compounding. So I always think about that too, where maybe I go to this thing and I lose an hour, but what could I gain? And is it disproportionate to that one little hour that I've lost, right? Maybe I purchased this thing for $99 or $999, but that's the most I could lose if it doesn't work. But what could I gain? Is it tons of money, right? Is it a whole new level of freedom in my life? Is it a new career I'm passionate about? Is it a mentor that I can rely on for the rest of my life? Those are all really important distinctions to make, because there is an end to how much you could lose, whether it's time or money or anything else. But if there's a limitless amount that you could gain, that may be worth that investment, right? Especially if it's an investment that could return something to you versus just an expense where the money's lost. I almost never go to something and feel like I didn't get something out of it, right? Like I have been to speaking events that have changed my entire business from one line that the speaker said that they probably don't even remember saying, but it clicks into something in your brain and things are never the same. So I love to bring in those new experiences because I feel like your brain just starts making connections, and one thing on its own might not change a lot, but once you start adding them up, it's almost like your brain creates this web of things that it can pull from, and all of a sudden you start thinking about different connections and you get at different business ideas and you have a whole new life because of it, right? And then the last thing that I would think about, it's so human nature to think about what could go wrong, right? Like what can I lose, right? And it makes sense. You're protecting yourself. You're protecting, primally like your resources, right? That therefore sustain life, like historically thinking. But one thing that my friend Keisha says, and she has a podcast as well, the Empower Her podcast. It's so good if you haven't listened to it. But she always says, yes, maybe things could go wrong. Maybe it could be worse than you imagine. But what if it's better? What if things go right? What if things go better than you ever imagined? And so what I like to play with is and literally write this out. What would you do if things went wrong? If this didn't work, what would you do? Right? Like maybe you would just carry on with your life and be exactly where you are. Maybe if you took a leap and started your business and it didn't work out, you would go back to exactly what you're doing right now. Right? And that's the worst, and you're already there. So if you started something and someone laughed at you, okay, so they laugh at you. Can you handle it? You can, right? Like it might hurt your feelings, but you call your girlfriend or talk to your spouse and you get through it, right? So kind of think about what are you afraid of going wrong? And what would you do if that happened? But then also, don't just stop there. Give yourself some time to think about, what if it went right though? What would happen if it was better than you imagined? What would happen if you got more freedom than you could have ever dreamed, right? What would happen if you could design your day, if your business took off, if everyone around the world knew your name and wrote into you and thanked you for the way that you're changing their life? What if you were able to invest and to save for your family's future and to never worry about money again and to always know that you could make money? What if you felt so fulfilled by what you did every day that you woke up and you had to make sure that you were not dreaming, because this is the life that you created for yourself by that one risk, by that one chance that you were so afraid to take. And all you had to lose was a little bit, but look at what you gained out of this. What if you made connections you could not even see? What if you were just the biggest version of whatever you can imagine, and just play with that and watch your energy change and know that that is just as much a possibility, right? Like, yes, things might go wrong, but chances are you'll probably figure them out before they go really, really wrong. But things might also go right. And especially if you feel like you're called to this may be something that's meant for you. And then you have the whole universe on your side, right? Like, then you have things shifting around to pave the way for you and to fall into place in serendipitous ways because they're meant for you. So if you feel that nudge, there's so much power in that, because that, I think, is a signal like this is for you. And there's some higher power or some life force that wants this for you. So imagine what falls into place when that's the case, right? Like, if you're currently feeling like you're resisting something and it's not where you're meant to be, like, that's not really like what's for you, right? Imagine if you start moving in the direction of what is, and maybe it's scary, and maybe there's investments to make, and maybe there's things that do take a little bit from you on the front end, but what you get from them is so much more. Start thinking about what if it's better and what could go right. And just watch how life shifts because of that lens and that belief, and training your brain to look for opportunities in that way. Okay, so again, those are just some concepts that really helped me when I started to invest in this business that I was building and in my future. And if this has felt like a lot of things to think about or write down, think about them in terms of like, yes, there's a cost to doing something, but there's also a cost to not. So what is the cost to not doing this? Think about how value given is value received. So the more stretchy something feels, the more excited I get about that, because you are going to get so much from it. Remember that there is such thing as investments versus expenses, and investments make you money and expenses lose you money. So know the difference and what you're looking at and what it is. Remember that there's such thing as disproportionate gain, right? Where you might lose a little, but you know the extent you could lose. You may not know the extent you could gain. It may be way bigger, right? Even if everything goes wrong, what you gain could be so much bigger than what you lose. Also then, start to think about what could go right. Think about what can go wrong. Think about how you'll handle it, sure. Make a plan, and then it's out there. But also think about, what if it's better? What if it goes better than you imagined? What if this is the first step that changes the rest of your life, your relationships, your freedom, your confidence, your fulfillment, your creativity, this path that you're on? That is always what I am hoping for in the highest level for you. And so I hope that this just offers you a little something. If you're weighing a decision, if you feel like you're muddied by which path to take, hopefully these can offer you just some guidance or encouragement, and maybe illuminate the right decision for you. Only you can know it, but I hope these help. Have a great rest of your week, and I will be back here next Thursday. If this episode resonated with you, I have something you are going to love. As you may know, part of what helps me create my own version of my brightest life is copywriting and content marketing. Building a content business helped me replace and surpass my corporate income, to see the world while working from anywhere, and to choose clients that light me up every single day. If you're at all curious about doing the same, I have broken it down for you in a copywriting starter kit, all the beginning steps you need to build your own profitable freelance business. I will link it in the show notes, so definitely check it out if you're interested. Thank you so much for being here, and I will chat with you next Thursday.